Thank you, Acting President. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to contribute to this debate on the Education and Training Reform Amendment Free TAFE Guarantee Bill. This bill includes a number of different areas, but new objectives for the TAFE network, new powers to the Minister in relation to the TAFE network, and strategic planning framework for the TAFE network providers. Now, I'd like to note for the House that I do have something in common with Ms Terpstra. It's worth mentioning at least one thing in common. Very different policies, I note, but we both have sons involved at TAFE. And so I am certainly very proud to be a mum of someone who's going through an apprenticeship at the moment. And I think we have so much to be thankful for our TAFEs. I've spoken with a number of teachers, and I think they do an incredible job, and it's not an easy job to do at all, because you've got to be trained to be able to teach as well as being trained in your actual trade. And we have 90 campuses, and in our regional areas they are so important. We know that the Sunraysia Institute of TAFE, that covers the northwest area. We've got campuses in Mildura, in Swan Hill, in Robinvale and Oyen. Also the Go TAFE, we've got campuses in Shepparton, in Seymour, Benalla and Wangaratta, and I remember visiting Wangaratta and seeing the TAFE there, and that was fantastic. And also Bendigo TAFE, which is local to where I live, and yeah, they've got some great facilities there, and even a place where you can go and get your hair cut, which is fantastic. But there's a lot of work being done at those sites. Now, there is certainly a number of issues though, and I know Ms Ermakora referred to in her contribution, she said free TAFE helps you target. But I think when you look at the statistics that show just over 53% completing a free TAFE course in a 4-year course, back in 2024, the government gave that information. Well, that just shows that there is certainly a lot of missing those targets right now. Now, I received a letter from a group training organisation, and I think it's worth quoting from it. It says, Victoria faces a significant and rapidly escalating skills crisis. Apprenticeship training contracts have fallen from more than 58,000 in 2022-23 to fewer than 25,000 today, while youth unemployment, school disengagement and critical shortages across construction, manufacturing, health, social housing and emergency industries continue to intensify. At the same time, substantial government investment, particularly in programs such as Head Start and fee-free TAFE, has not translated into the outcomes Victoria urgently needs. Now, we know that there is some recent data that's been released, and it confirms that the number of Victorian apprentices and trainees in training and commencing an apprenticeship continues to fall. The National Centre for Vocational Education Research figures published yesterday for the 12 months ending September 2025 exposed the Allan Labor government's continued failure to address Victoria's shortage of skilled workers. The report provided a snapshot, and it shows the number of commencements was down 22.6%, with 3,480 fewer commencements for trade occupations and 3,340 fewer commencements for non-trade occupations. The number in training also fell by 13%, and the number of completions for non-trade occupations fell 16.5%, with 14.7% fewer females completing their apprenticeship or traineeship. Now, the data shows that Victoria continues to have the lowest rate of students complete VET qualifications per capita in the nation, with the exception of the ACT, with student satisfaction levels at or below national averages. Now, that should highlight some major issues, and I think we should be asking why. Why is that happening? This is just going to further contribute to Victoria's skilled workforce shortages, which leads to higher prices and restrictions on economic growth. Now, I know recently I have been participating in the electric vehicles inquiry, and we had the National Commission, I think I'll have to find the the reference for it. Here it is. The National Electrical and Communications Association came, and they were sharing, I guess, some of the challenges that there are at the moment with workforce, particularly with their electrical industry. And they were asked about, the need, are there enough contractors available to complete the work? And they said the answer is no. In 2030, the analysis has been undertaken. We will be, across Australia, 32,000 electricians short. If you consider the rate of people, electricians leaving the industry as opposed to those coming into the industry, 35,000. It is a 4-year apprenticeship. 2030 is 4 years away. So theoretically, because the completion rates for apprenticeships are close to 50%, we should have 70,000 electrical apprentices enrolled today. We do not, and we will run short. The dilemma that you will have is not only this, you will have the Community Home Batteries program, which is extracting a lot of our workforce. You also have everything to do with net zero and energy efficiency drawing on it. You'll have a housing and infrastructure shortage. This is where all the electricians are going to be dragged from. And they go on to make a number of other important points. One is, they talked about we need to engage with more mature age apprenticeships. We are seeking a lot of people over the age of 21 who want to enter the trade, but there is a cost barrier with mature age apprenticeship rates. A lot of employers, especially the small and medium-sized enterprises, will not pay those additional funds, even though they are probably better performers. And one other aspect that they mentioned during the inquiry, and I thought this was worth highlighting, they talk about training and how important it is. It says training needs to be reviewed to make sure it's keeping up with incoming technologies and stuff like that. This trade schooling was written last century in the 1980s and 90s, and it does need reviewing. So they talk about certainly the baseline for an A-grade electrician is still moving forward to keep up with the evolving technologies, and we'll need to put more investment into post-trade training to make sure they are skilled for energy demand, monitoring, control, batteries, EV charging, and all that sort of stuff as well. So that's from the Hansard from the inquiry, which I thought was worth noting today. Now, another area that I've certainly been made aware of, because we have agriculture, I know Bendigo TAFE is one of the places that offers agriculture, and it's such an important part of our industry and contributes so much. The gross value of agriculture production was $94.3 billion in 2022-23. That's Australia-wide. And in 2020-22, Victoria's gross value of agriculture production was $20.2 billion, accounting for 23% of our GVAP, so making Victoria Australia's second largest agriculture producer. And this is from the North Central LIN, provides this information, and they, in their presentation, I guess, highlight the importance of the employment, 154,000 people employed in the sector in agriculture production and manufacturing, and 75% of those being in regional areas. And yet I'm aware of the challenges that there are in our TAFE system and the training, and some of those have been highlighted recently. I was hearing about insufficient staffing. Courses are frequently staffed with temporary or reduced teaching capacity rather than stable industry experienced educators, undermining that continuity and practical supervision. Inadequate equipment and learning materials can lead to issues. Essential machinery, workshop tools and up-to-date learning resources are either unavailable or so limited that hands-on learning is compromised. Also, the lack of marketing sometimes of courses such as agriculture can also mean that it can see declining enrolments and reduce industry awareness of the pathways. And I know, just talking more broadly of some of the challenges the industry's facing, those declining vet enrolments, despite the rising need for the training in those areas, because of that limited access to practical hands-on training and the infrastructure that you need to be able to deliver those courses, the trainer recruitment and retention challenges there, the travel and access barriers that's been referred to in this debate as well for school and regional learners, because I know I've spoken with grandparents that have had to take grandchildren very long distances while parents are working to get them to training. And yeah, that risk of misalignment between training delivery and contemporary farm practice can be a challenge, because we know in agriculture there is very advanced technologies out there today. But I think we heard earlier about the group training organisations and their important part that they play in connecting people between school and actual workplace, and they also face some challenges. I know they currently operate under 7 different regulatory bodies, which does create significant duplication, confusion and cost. I note that their funding has remained unchanged at $3.2 million for more than 20 years, despite growing demand and the removal of federal support in 2014. And the correspondence that I received from one of these organisations refers to fee-free TAFE has broadened access to training, but completion rates have fallen significantly. And I think that this is a glaring issue, and as I mentioned earlier, that apprenticeship training contracts have dropped by 33,000 from 2022-23 to today. And yeah, that is a major problem that we have. And I know that Ms Terpstra, I've heard in the debate as well, talked about, our side taking a razor. And I think this is a challenge because, it's not, it's time, I believe, that this government starts taking accountability or responsibility, because they have been in for 12 years. We hear a lot of replaying of the old records, looking back. But I think what's happening right now, if the government want to put the focus on the razor that they are using, certainly know the complexity allowance in our rural and regional schools has been cut. It's being phased out under this government right now over the next 3 years. Another area that they're impacting regional schools is tuition funding support that's been cut. And another area is the community use facility. Again, the razor under this government right now, cutting funds to our rural and regional schools. So if you want to talk about razors, I'd suggest that the government look at what they are doing right now in education and to our regional students, because we know that we do have significant need for skilled workforce in Victoria. We need that to grow our economy. And the challenge we have right now is that growing divide between those with the skills and those able to deliver. And I think it's so important. TAFE provides so many important pathways: builders, plumbers, electricians. We know painters, hairdressers, and beauty, like nurses. And I know Ms Lovell in her contribution talked about the need for that in our regional areas. Hospitality and tourism, veterinary studies, finance and business, agriculture and horticulture, like I mentioned, transport and logistics. These are all so important. And this bill, it is a missed opportunity. As Mr Welch referred to earlier, it's a nice twist with the title, but what we see under this government time and time again is just spin. And I think it's important to know that it was talked about earlier. Ms Terpstra, I think, mentioned the open door, and I would say, well, the exit door is ready for this government in November, because I think people really do want to see a change. I think we need a strong vet system, and we need a TAFE network that delivers for students and for industry. And we need jobs if we want to grow Victoria. Thank you.